This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Out of the Ashes presents Missing Dad.
I might have ended up on the wrong side of the tracks if Pops wouldn't have pulled me back and said, yo.
Each episode is a thought-provoking interview with people across all walks of life to see how they were affected by missing key pieces in their relationship with their dad.
I told him as a youngster, he'll be the greatest man alive.
And now your hosts, Coley Harris and Amar Melton.
Welcome to another episode of Missing Dad. I'm your co-host, Coley Harris.
Missing Das. What?
This is a new podcast, Missing Dad.
The remix.
Yeah, we be clowning before we get on here, man.
Call 911, man. With stroke alert or something. Nah, go ahead. You said your name?
Yeah, I said my name.
Oh.
Well, hold on. You want me to do it again? Welcome to another episode of Missing Dad. I'm your co-host, Coley Harris.
And I'm the other co-host, Amar Melton.
And we are fortunate to be honored to have a special guest with us today, a good friend of mine, Mr. Saad Soliman.
Yes,
Want to introduce yourself, Saad?
Hey, man, it's just me, Saad Soliman. I'm here with you good brothers to have a fantastic conversation about growth, development, and what's been missing.
Fatherhood. You want to take the lead on this one, young man?
Sure. So me and Saad were talking the other day about something unrelated, and he started to break down you guys' relationship because I knew you two knew each other, but I didn't know the depth of your relationship. So can you jump into that for me, like how you guys know each other?
Absolutely. So for me, my relationship with Coley started before I ever met Coley, right? I was in juvenile, one of the first 7 juveniles in Delaware that were sentenced to go to the adult penitentiary back in 1995, right? So the Clinton crime bill back in 94 made it that juveniles can be sentenced as adults.
Yeah.
And in 1995, I had caught a case, accidentally killed my best friend in a home invasion robbery. And I was locked up with Mo Blunt and Gator. And as we were plotting our transition, we had all cases, adult cases. As we were plotting our transition from juvenile into the adult penitentiary, we were plucked at different times, right? And so I came down Smyrna, which was our prison at the time. It's called J.T. Vaughn now, James T. Vaughn Correctional Center. But when I came down Smyrna, Blunt and Gator introduced me to Coley. And at the time, Coley was young. You know, he was a lot less.
You're saying it like I'm old now, brother.
I mean, there was a lot less pounds around.
Oh,
You got a shots fired button on that thing, man?
fine. Man. Let me find the shots behind me.
So I got to know him, and I saw in this brother, he was a very profound brother. You know, he was focused on Black empowerment and us really developing a sense of self and a sense of identity within ourselves and our culture. And at that point in time, he was an OG to me, right? Like he was from the bucket. He was
2'6".
2'6", yeah. The 2'6". He was thorough. He was holding me down. He was guiding me away from some of the bullshit that I was always into because
Always.
you know, it's just one of those things. You grow up in prison, you lived and make the same mistakes that you make out here. Well, you do it in there. You know, you make mistakes. You fuck with the wrong people. You fuck with the wrong situations. You mess with a guard. She ends up pregnant. You never know what's, you know, all those kinds of situations happen for me, right? So it was like guiding forces were given to me, and they were my father figures, right? And he was one of my father figures. Even though he's not that much older than me, he was wiser than me. Much more balanced in his approach. At that point, I wasn't really able to contain what was happening inside me. Didn't really know what was happening inside me.
How old were you at the time?
So I went in 17 and was in there for 15 years. So I came out 32, but went in 17 and met Coley at 17, 18, 19, 20, all through my 20s to my early 30s.
Right.
And we traveled Virginia, Smyrna, Virginia, then down Georgetown, you know, all throughout the prison system and all different aspects of the prison system. So it was like a very unique experience to grow together.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's interesting. You mentioned something that I don't think a lot of people think about, and that is that your life doesn't stop. Like your growth and development, it's going to take place no matter what your environment is. So if you're out here in the streets, you know, if you're coming from in the streets from an urban community where there's drugs and violence, your growth and development is still going to take place in that environment. And like in particularly, you know, in the United States, like you said, then anyway, Delaware now they don't do that, but putting juveniles in adult prisons, you know, no matter which environment, you're still gonna grow. You're gonna still learn. You're gonna still make your mistakes and everything like that. So, I think people, you know, it's just interesting to, you know, what I mean, to hear it from that perspective.
Yeah, it's lost on us, right?
Yeah.
Like we just do it. We're in the midst of making it happen, of survival. But then you realize while you're in there surviving, you're laughing. You have times that are good. You share times that are hard. You share times that are fun, times that are less fun. You know, it's the same range of emotions and the same experiences, just on a micro level, because it's contained within an environment that's surrounded by concrete and bars.
I had it was a guy. We was at I think it was at a meetup we had like last year downstate, and a brother from down Dover, I think it was JB. He said, you know, when I was in there, you know, I was a young boy. He said, I'm looking around, I'm seeing all these different faces of people that I did time with, you know what I mean, coming back and forth and doing extended period of time. And he said when tragedies and things happened, and I was in when happened in the community, in the street, right? But I'm in here, you know what I mean, lost a life, family member, anything like that. He said the people that were around me were my immediate family. You know what I'm saying? And we had to help each other. And I think about that. We had to help each other, you know what I mean, through different crises. You know what I mean? People lost children, parents, all different type of things happened. And all you had was your community that was around you. You know, people on your tier, people that you deal with throughout, you know what I mean, the penitentiary, whatever, if you're involved in a religious organization or religious groups or anything like that. And I said, that was profound when I heard him say that. And it's like, you know, immediate family. You know, it's people that, and people may not understand that, and people don't understand relationships that come out of that. You don't go to prison and serve, you know what I mean, 5, 10, you know what I mean, 15 years with people and have these relationships, and they don't have any type of substance. Like, these are real, genuine relationships that you have with people closer, you know what I mean, often I'm finding now closer than some of the relationships I had with people, even family.
Indeed.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, you think about it, right? Like you can laugh with hundreds of people, and the people that laugh with you, you know, they come quickly and leave quickly, and you can remember and you can forget people that you laugh with, but you'll never ever forget somebody that cries with you. You'll never forget somebody that stands there with you in the motherfucking mix and says, "I got you." Right. And I know it's rough right now. Lost your mom, lost your grandmom. You get that call. And
Go out to the chapel.
The guard tells you, you're
call.
going to the fucking chapel. And you know what it is.
You already know it's a death.
You already know somebody died. And then you come back, you know, and your eyes are either super red or your lips quivering or whatever, and your people just hold you down. You'll never forget those moments. And the reality of the situation is you come out here and it's like we were comrades. We were in an experience. And especially today, after coming home and living the world free out here, and we get a chance to see, man, we were in a fucked up situation. Didn't even realize how fucked up it was because our worlds were so fucked up. Yeah. So it's like you come out here, it's a comrade situation. It's almost like I was watching this TV show on Netflix called The Pacific, and it speaks about World War II. And in the very end, it talks about, like, it shows an illustration of how a soldier who went through the muck. I mean, in this show, these guys are showing very graphic experiences in the trenches. But then after the fact, you're on a train and you're just being dropped off at your crib. And now you got to talk to everybody in the world that never saw what you saw.
Yeah.
Right.
And that transition is kind of like what happens in reentry. You come home and no one understands what you've been through. No one understands what you experienced. And you're expected to just transition and just flow like everybody else flows.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a level of like PTSD, maybe?
So they call it post-incarceration syndrome. Post-incarceration syndrome is defined as a maladaptive disorder that prevents an individual from transitioning back into civilian society, into normal pro-social culture. But it really, truly, it has reminiscent aspects of it that are similar to PTSD in the sense that when you come home, there are remnants of your previous environment that you carry into your current existence. And some of those things are barriers, right? Some of those things are barriers that you carry with you, right? Sometimes it makes the world that you live in feel more uncomfortable.
Give us an example, like 1 or 2.
Simple example would be at the mall, right? Like you first come home, you want to go to the mall, get yourself a pair of sneakers, a little sweatsuit, something, just something simple, right? Not major. You just trying to go out there and maybe spend $100. Just being around people, just being around that crowd is like unnerving, right? You might be walking in the mall, and a young boy just walking while he's head down texting and brushes into your shoulder and just keeps it pushing. Like he's not even really paying attention. He's just keeping it pushing.
Right.
Where inside, if you in the prison yard and somebody brushes into you like that, it's a beef. That's a whole situation. You got to acknowledge me. Like, yo, you going to say, excuse me. You going to
do something, right?
You going to do something. We going to lock ass for this one. Like, you're not going to just be in my space like that and just bang me and just bump out like that. You going to at least acknowledge it and say, yo, my bad. I ain't, you know what I mean? I wasn't paying attention or something. And then even at that point, you got some niggas inside that'll be like, man, fuck you. You should have been paying attention. And that could be a problem. Well, here, it's like you're disregarded. Young Bull's just paying attention, just doing his own thing, which is cool. I mean, it's all right. But it speaks to the trauma, right? It speaks to that previous experience doesn't really carry forward. It won't help you succeed if you're carrying the rules from that world into this world. Sometimes it's a bit of a challenge.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. Never
mind the shower shoes in the bathtub.
Wait, after you come home?
Yeah, like you in the shower with, you know what I mean, everybody in there. Right. So it's disgusting. You're not going to go in there barefoot, right? You're going to get athlete's disease and shit on your feet. So out here, you come out and you take a shower. It's like you still, I know for my first couple weeks, essentially, I jumped out of it quickly, but first couple weeks, I was wearing shower shoes to go to the bathtub. And it's like,
did you do that?
My ex-wife.
Nah, I didn't wear shower shoes when I got out here, but I could see why people, you know what I mean, I definitely understand why people did that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no. And my ex-wife was like, what are you doing? And what you mean what I'm doing? Get ready for the shower. She's like, what? Take my towel into the fucking shower with me and shit.
Why the fuck is you carrying them shower shoes and that knife with you to the shower?
And a bag of soap and shit. Like I got my stuff. Like I'm going to the bathroom with my stuff. And it's like, she's like, you know, there's soap in the soap dish. And I'm like, yeah, all right. That's your soap. And she's like, no,
are you going in there to make a cocktail? Why do you have this motherfucking ice pick going to the shower? Is it a party in there or something?
Taking my towel into the bathroom instead of just using the towel that's on the fucking rack, right? Like just, it's there. It's there for me. And those things were a transition. Those were little minor transitions, but it makes you feel like an alien almost, right? And you got to think, like when I went in, it was 1995. I came home, it was 2010. The whole fucking world changed from 1995 to 2010.
It did.
You had nobody in my world, not a single human being in my world had internet or World Wide Web access or any of that shit in 1995. Although I do know now that there were people that had America Online and early dial-up internet. Yeah, I didn't know anybody like that, but you know, when I came home, you figure 2010, everyone had internet. You had to be online to some extent or other in 2010. Cell phones, smartphones. What happened? 1999, the tech bubble. Everybody was starting to see millions in the tech industry online. You had companies that were starting, and then in 1999, they said the whole world's gonna crash because the computers, the Y2K bug.
I was down there. I was working out.
We were in Virginia.
It was in Virginia.
I was in the hole for the hair policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elaborate. If you care to. If you
About
care
the
to.
hair policy?
The hair policy.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember the hair policy in Virginia
Nah,
when they locked us down because we had to cut our beards?
I don't remember that.
Me, Kashai, shit.
Oh, I do. You know what? I hadn't taken my shahada back then.
Yeah, nah, you were still hanky. But yeah, no, they wanted us to cut our hair, cut our beards. There was a hair policy that Virginia instituted and said that we had to shave our faces, and if you had locks, if your hair was in any cornrows, if you had afro, if you had anything long, and of course back then, I mean, you can't tell now, but I had these fire ass fucking curls. My hair was fire, and I wanted, I'm like, I'm rocking. Well, Fahim, Kashai, myself, Big Steel. Akibak was still in Delaware. He didn't come to Virginia with us. But a whole bunch of brothers, Africa, a whole bunch of us just decided we weren't going to shave. Like, fuck you. We weren't going to shave. So they came in, they brought their little team, locked us all up, put us all down. We were in the hole. They were feeding us the loaf, which is all of your meals, everything in one fucking contraption, just a big fucked up loaf. Of everything, the loaf. And I remember Haroon, Aaron Morris, was coming to the fucking prison yard and putting Snickers bars through my fucking window so I could have a snack because I wasn't eating the fucking loaf. But yeah, that was where I spent my New Year's Eve of 99 and 2000 in the hole in solitary confinement down Virginia in Greensville Correctional Center. But then you think after the Y2K bug, what else happened? 9/11?
Yep.
And 9/11 transformed the way the way America would live forever. It transformed everything. I mean, before 9/11, the concept of security wasn't even a thing.
Right.
Not to that degree.
Not to that degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything changed. Patriot Act, everything became pervasive. Government began to institute different policies around security and safety, and terror became a thing. Before it was the war on drugs. After 9/11, it was the war on terror. So any crime or any action or any violence that you perpetrated in America that terrorized somebody became a capital offense. And so, like, there were a lot of things that changed. Then the prosperity from 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, and then boom, the crash in 07. Right, so like the mortgage crisis, the foreclosures, the bailouts, the big companies that were going down.
It was a lot. It was a lot, like you said, between 95 and coming into you came on 2010?
2010, boom. So now here I am
It was a new world.
in the midst of a whole new world, and all I had gotten a chance to see. I mean, our first black president, President Obama, was elected, and I remember being on the tier as it was announced, and how we were celebrating.
And I was home.
Yeah,
I was at the inauguration.
you were.
Yeah. It was cold as shit.
I bet, but it was so fucking amazing. I was just watching it all on TV, and it was just amazing to me to see the world transform while we were inside. I was just like on the sidelines, and I come home in 2010, and now the world is like, oh shit, I got to play catch up, and I got to figure out my place in it. And I got to make sure that probation and parole don't lock me up because I don't want to go back.
Right.
And I got to find a gig. Oh, and I got to find a flow out here. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah. Let me take a step back for a minute.
Yeah.
So for you, you know what I mean, we kind of, got into, the prison and all that and going on down that road or whatever like that. And how was it? Talk a little bit about your childhood growing up. You know what I mean? Where was you born and raised at? How was all that?
Newark. I was in the dignified poor, right? So my mom and dad came over in the 60s from Egypt. So this before anybody in America knew Arabs or knew Muslims. We were like my dad had a deep accent, was a real cool cat, man. He was a very remarkable man. He was the guy that, when you think about the growth and development of a man, of a son, the father is a primary role model there, right?
Right.
I'm exactly like my dad. I got the personality, I got the flow, I got the laugh, I got the affable demeanor, same stature. He was a strong man. He was a very, very violent man. The way he raised a son was with his hands.
Yeah.
And while he was an incredibly compassionate and gentle man in a lot of ways, he was also a dragon inside. So I grew up in a family that had a lot of love, didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of material things, though they worked very, very hard to make sure that my sisters and I had a roof over our head and food and those basic necessities and stuff. But everything else was out of reach.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that. It was just, you just live and you do. And all of my friends, we were all poor, but we didn't really know as much of how poor we were until we got a little older and we realized, wow, we were really poor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How did your relationship change, if it changed at all, with your father, like transitioning into your teenage years?
Man, I was in the mix. I was in the streets, and my dad and I had significant fallouts and significant build-ins, and just to the point where it was like I was on my own, and I had decided that I was on my own, involved in the criminal justice system early, right? So I was in and out of foster care, in and out of residential treatment centers and group homes and Camelot and Newcastle County Detention Center, which back then was just Bridge House, and all of these different institutions. And my dad would come visit me and say, yo, man, this is the state's keeping you. Like, you can't come home right now. The state's got you. And when you do get a chance to come home, I just want you to get out of here. Go back to Egypt or leave Delaware, because this place ain't for you.
Right.
But it never worked out that way, you know what I mean? And then right around 95, he moved back to Egypt. My mom moved back to Egypt in 94. So I was pretty much on my own, you know what I mean, just doing my own thing. And that was cool with me, because I was that hard-headed young boy back in that era that was just comfortable living on my own and trying it my way.
Right.
Yeah. Dang. I didn't realize that. How did your relationship continue once you gotten arrested? You said your father went back to Egypt in 95?
Yeah.
And your mother was already there?
Yeah.
And but around 95, that's when you got
that's when I got
arrested.
booked. Yeah, that's when I got booked.
How did your relationship change, or and grow? Because I know, from having experienced it my own self and being incarcerated, I know that just relationships with your most intimate people, fathers, parents, and so on. It changes. The dynamic of it changes.
Yeah. So my dad retreated. He was heartbroken. I was his only son, and he couldn't do nothing for me.
Yeah.
He was locked up with a first-degree murder case that ended up pleading down to manslaughter,
right?
First-degree robbery, possession of a firearm, and so that put me in for 15. Right? Period. That's what it is. Nothing he could do about it. I took a plea, so it wasn't like there was an appeal option. Wasn't none of that. So he just had to resign himself to the fact that his son was in prison for this huge amount of time. He retreated. He was in Egypt. He tried to build himself a new world, tried to build himself a new life. He got married, had 2 kids, started his own world. And I would see him for one honor visit, which I'll never forget. That was a fantastic honor visit.
Yeah.
And 2 separate other visits after that. One visit, he came down Smyrna. Another visit, he came right down before I left. He came down Georgetown.
Okay.
And, and Georgetown was a very friendly visit compared to other spots in Delaware. Like, at that point, you could sit at the table, you could hug, you could take pictures. I still got the picture that would have been my last time seeing my dad in person, because I came home in 2010. I was on probation and parole, couldn't move, couldn't get out of the country. He was living in Egypt, and he died in 2012.
Wow.
So I never had a chance to, like, hug him free.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the last time I saw my dad was in 2007, down in Virginia, down at Georgetown.
Yeah.
At the visiting room. So, it's a unique process, because you can't go backwards in life.
Right.
No matter what. Like, there's no rewind button in life. It's just all forward movement. And that's one of the things that make me do what I do today. You know what I mean? Focusing on living and making each moment the most impactful.
Yeah.
And the most valuable.
Yeah, no doubt.
So you said 2007 was the last visit, right? So
Yeah.
I imagine, he's seeing a completely different side from 1995, right? You're a man, you've grown into your own, you've matured. Did you get like any, did he seem like relieved about the man that you were on the path to becoming or anything like that?
Yeah, he was very impressed at that point. So I wasn't fat either, right? I was lifting weights all the time in the gym. And I was constantly in the gym. Everybody that knows me from doing time knows that I was lifting all the time in the gym, pushing up, pull-ups, dips, everything.
Yeah.
So by the time my dad saw me in 2007, I was a good 250 solid. And my dad was like, you've become a man. Like, you're fully a man now. And physically, he saw that. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, he also saw the man that I was, and was very proud of that, right? And I told him, he had a lot. He had a very significant role in my development. Separate from him, I was raised by lifers, right? And that's where I attribute Coley and a lot of the brothers that I was in with Coley in my own development as a man. Because that's the core of what's happened to me, right? Like, my purpose in life has been designed around the idea that I live as a vessel for others to have lived vicariously through me. And that includes my father, right? So my father is my genetic sire. Everybody else is my spiritual, mental, emotional, and developmental sires.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I mean, I told him, he and I talk about it more. That's my son, y'all, for people who might be watching for the first time. And I share the same things with him, sentiments about the guy, the lifers, and the role that they play and helping me to grow and develop as a man, to even be in a position to come home and be of the frame of mind to be able to go to my son humbly, and say, hey, I want to fix this. I want to put our relationship back together, and that's a whole different, a whole different animal, a whole different beast. And it's something, people I don't think people realize how significant a role that these guys, these lifers, inside of these prisons, the significance. If I can talk, the significance
Stroke
that
alert.
These guys play. Huh?
I said stroke alert. I'm telling you.
Right? The significance that these dudes play and these brothers play in helping, helping you to grow and develop. I talked about earlier, the younger guy, you still grow as a young man when you go to prison. You still have to go through your phases. It's just a different environment. The same thing when you're older. Like, these guys still, have a meaning and a value in life, that they try to oftentimes impart on and give the brothers that might be going home, So coming home, so you did your time, you came home, I got your bumps and bruises, you came home in 2015 and
2010.
Damn,
2010.
I didn't put 2010.
Gave me a whole nother 5. Gave me another
Don't you say
nickel.
nothing.
I'm quiet.
So you come home in 2010. You start moving around and trying to get your life on board, and then you had a child.
I had a child. I had little Farah, who's now 11, and apple of my eye, whole entire world Becoming a father has been the single most transformative event that has ever taken place in my world.
Yeah.
Quite literally, it has been the most profound, definitive moment in my life in which I can honestly say that my whole entire appreciation for the concept of love has just become my life.
Wow.
Right? Before that, fuck love. Love sucked. Love always betrayed me. Love was never something that I wanted to be a part of. It was always like, man, fuck that shit. That shit's for the birds.
Yeah.
But then you have this little child, this little birth, this gift in your arms. And I call her my little monkey, right? Because she was born breech. And she would sit on my little shoulder here with her little legs up like little chicken wings, shit right here. And she would just nuzzle her little nose into my neck. And that was her happy place. And so she'd be on my little shoulder like you see like on the Nature Channel. You see a monkey like, hanging on its mom. Well, that was the same way. And that was still to this day, she's my little monkey, right? She hates nowadays because she's 11 and she's too cool.
Yeah.
She hates when I'm like, monkey. And she's like, Dad, don't call me monkey, call me Farrah. Like, all right. I don't call you monkey no more. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, it transforms you as a human, at least in my experience. It was transformative. It was entirely transformative.
Yeah. So coming out of, so I'm thinking about, coming out of prison, right, and everything that goes along with that whole thing there, that piece, and then having a child, and there's no manual for this, no, instructional manual or book, to tell you how to raise a child. Were you concerned after, kind of, because you like you said, you in your teens, you kind of got mixed up in some street stuff, got locked up, and all of the stuff that happened there. Were you concerned that you were not going to be a good dad, or how did you feel?
I don't know, man. I wasn't necessarily concerned, but I feel like I did everything in my power to be the best dad, right? Like, it was just an intentional. The one thing I know in my life, I've fucked up relationships, I fucked up money, I fucked up bags, I fucked up situations, I fucked up opportunities, I fucked up a whole lot of shit in my life, right? But the one thing that I was never gonna fuck up was gonna be my father. Like, I was not gonna, my role as a father was never gonna get fucked up.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that I was very intentional about. Like, I'm telling you, my body count is fucked up. It's tons of fuck ups everywhere. But the one thing that I never fucked up and will never fuck up, God willing, is my fathering, right? Yeah. So making sure that little girl knows, come hell or high water, I got a rider, I got a dad, I got a man that's behind me that's going to pick me up no matter what. It's going to be there to the death.
Yeah.
That has been my fathering definition. And it's not always clear what tomorrow is going to bring, but it's always clear what now requires. Right?
Yeah. I think it amazes me. And Amar and I talk about this too. And I don't hog up everything, but I am flabbergasted. I'm dumbfounded by the amount of men who are fathers who are very cavalier about their relationship with their children, don't have no intention on it, don't make it a priority, and won't make the effort to I can't get that. I don't get that.
Sickening.
You know what I mean?
That's some bullshit. I don't understand. It's something, to be honest with you, we can look at the trauma, right? It's cyclical. There's trauma there. There's got to be some fucked up situation, some kind of a nurture switch that didn't come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it was transformative. It was entirely transformative. And my definition, literally, even as a professional, every self, we have multiple selves, right? Our personal self, our professional self, our friendly self, our self to our circle, our friend, like our men's circles. Every self that I am knows that my foundation as a self in every aspect, professional, personal, emotional, is my fathering, right? Yeah. Farrah is first. My daughter comes first in every aspect. Not her mom, not the world, not my mom, not anybody. It's Farrah.
Yeah.
That's the world, right? So like to the extent that I can't relate to anyone that can't put their child first.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, let's talk about it. If you're the father of a daughter, you're a girl dad, you have a significant responsibility in modeling not only what that girl envisions, models, views, perceives as a man, as a healthy man, but you also have to teach her how to be a woman from a man's lens.
Yeah.
She's got her mother, and her mother teaches her everything. And her mother's a fantastic human being, amazing. I'm blessed that she's my kid's mom. But at the same time, there's some things that a father gives a daughter
You got to do it.
that you can't get from a mother alone, right? So like you have to breathe life into your daughter so that she understands her worth, her value. When she comes to you and you put the phone down for whatever reason, you make her a priority, she begins to internalize that priority is what she's going to look for when she fucks with a dude.
Yeah.
Like she's not going to just be disregarded. She's not going to just sit there and just be like, all right, while he's on the phone texting, she's going to just be there like furniture. No. It's going to be like, you're going to put that down and you're going to pay attention to me and you're going to give me the attention that I'm deserving of because that's her norm. That's what she's used to. Yeah. And a lot of the things as a father, I'm modeling for her what she deserves, what she's entitled to as a human.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, I think society plays a part in this to some degree, man, with dudes and run around and they have children and they do whatever and don't engage with their children. It's almost socially acceptable. You can not deal with your kids, and in some circles your homies could know, and you know, excuses, right? And they'll still hang with you, talk to you, engage with you, go out with you on the weekends and stuff like that. I think it takes men like us to like, you know, pull, especially our friends, right? Pull them to the side. Like, nah, that's like, cool. You make that right.
That's a sucker move, yeah. If you're not intentional about it, and I think in this day and age, I know for me, 45 years old, having lived a life where I wasn't so much focused on intentionality. Today, I'm focused on intentionality. In my circle, if you're not a father of caliber, you're a sucker. Like, for real, like, you're just a sucker. I'm not fucking with you. If you're not a father of caliber, meaning you don't have to be the Daddy Robux or Santa Claus dad. You ain't got to have the money and give gifts. No, it's more about, like, the giving of yourself, the love, the attention, the wisdom, the faith that I espouse, which is Islam, gives nasiha. Nasiha is advice, counsel. And that's considered to be the most valuable of gifts between a human to another, right? Is nasiha, is counsel, is advice. If you as a father can't make space for your child, for your seed, for that person that you've contributed to bringing into this world, and can't give them the counsel and the advice, the most valuable wisdom that we can impart, I ain't got no time for you.
Yeah.
That's heavy. That's heavy. So what's going on with you now?
Oh, man, I'm grinding. I'm the founder and CEO of my own consulting firm, which does high-level government consulting. You know, one thing we didn't cover was my professional trajectory, right? I came home and worked a bunch of bullshit jobs, worked at a payday loan company, worked at a church, worked at a pizza shop, and for about 120 hours a week, 120 to 140 hours a week for a year, I worked busting my ass, 2 full-time jobs, 1 part-time job. And quite literally, at the end of that year, I made $24,000, right? So like I realized very quickly that wasn't sustainable. And I began, I started my own landscaping company, and that took off. I did 2.7 million over the course of 17 months.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, man, fucked the game up, crushed it. And just as at the same time, simultaneously to this company growing, I was tapped to become the first formerly incarcerated person ever hired by the United States Department of Justice.
Wow.
Like that's the crazy shit, right? Like boom. And that happened in September of 2011. At which point, working with the United States Attorney's Office, working with the U.S. Department of Justice, working with the U.S. District Courts, the U.S. Probation Office, all the different federal systems, I was able to help create reentry programs for men and women coming out of the feds in Delaware.
Okay.
And we did some amazing things in partnership. All the men and women coming home partnered with me to do assistance, because you can't just help somebody. Somebody wants to have to help.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, people actually want to have someone to help them. And while they're in that journey, if you're able to provide some kind of opportunity for them, they're usually going to snatch onto it, right? And so there's thousands of brothers in this community that are like, yo, Saad, man, anything you need, anytime, because you helped me when I was at my worst. Well, I took that and leveraged it into a career, about 7 years with the federal government, branched off, started my own nonprofit, served thousands of people in Delaware, again, transitional supportive housing, mentoring, case management, providing opportunities for people that were incarcerated to have careers. That was the thing. Then branched off now, and I'm doubling down on me. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing macro systems because I want to see impact, right? And you can only help so many people when you're doing the work yourself. But if you can teach systems to be friendlier, if you could teach systems to be more humanized, if you could teach systems to be more inclusive, then that creates opportunity for greater impact. And that greater impact is what I'm shooting for at this point in my career. So I'm working with a bunch of different states to improve and enhance their flow for reentry systems, individual systems coming home. I'm more of an ecosystem coordinator today than I ever was before, essentially knowing that we're all a part of some bigger picture here, and that when Amar is feeling pain and Coley's feeling pain and Saad's feeling pain, then our community is feeling pain. And that community in reverberating centric circles begins to impact our state, impacts our nation, impacts so many different systems, whether they're economic systems or social systems. Everything gets impacted by our own individual outcomes and pain. So that interconnectivity made me think of the world more from an ecosystem standpoint and lens. Mm-hmm. So now I go into different districts, I go to different states, and essentially begin tying in systems that operate in silos and connecting those systems and saying, here at this table, this is where you intersect with these men and women that are coming home. So that work is really important to me, and it's something that I find is very lucrative and very fulfilling, right? So it's like, if you're able to do well and do good at the same time, then I think you're winning. And absolutely. That's where I feel like I'm at today.
That's awesome. Thank you. So, Mar, you got any more questions for Sai?
Nah, you covered everything, man. This was an awesome interview. We appreciate your time. You touched on something right in the beginning. I don't know if he wants to talk about this. You met him. He was in his revolutionary phase down in Smyrna. You want to go into that now, or you want to save it for another episode?
It's up to y'all. We can go into it. It don't matter.
Nah, I think we're running short on time.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll touch on that another time.
That was Baby Huey. I love you, brothers, man.
Love you too, brother.
Love you too, man.
Word. Thank you, man.
This shit is real, and I support this. And remember, today, like we talked about it, in today's world, content is capital, right? So like, this is where we as a community can create opportunities for ourselves and create real wealth. Don't let this period pass us by. Like, even today, with the challenges and the little audibles we had to call, you know what I mean? We can make this happen. We have to harness the power of one another in order to really move forward together and make something happen, so that we can give our children something that they can hold on to, something that they can have generational wealth and real, absolute, true value
and substance.
Not just that bullshit. Like, we sit down and we bust it up and we have conversations, and it's like, man, if you could just harness the power of these conversations, so many would benefit from it, right? Our communities can be uplifted by just our bust up, our rap, our chill. So it's like, it's time for us to be very intentional, and I support you, brothers, and I applaud this. I applaud this effort and every other effort that Out of the Ashes and the brotherhood that you brothers espouse and demonstrate and teach for others that don't have the playbook. Because sure, you know, Coley, you mentioned earlier that parenting doesn't come with an manual, an instruction manual. Well, neither does parenting through prison.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're giving to the world, to the universe, to the spaces of community is a playbook of how it happened for y'all.
Yeah.
To see a beautiful relationship between a father and a son developing and sharing that, just by sharing the experiences, it gives people one lens into how it can be done, where before there was none, right? So like, I applaud you for this.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. We appreciate everything, man. Thank you for coming and sharing your story with us, brother.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm Coley Harris.
I'm Amar Melton.
Thank you for listening.
And I'm Saad Soliman, and I just messed up the.
Is you part of it?
I ain't part of it.
Is he a host?
I'm the
It could be. We'll have you as a guest host. We'll have you back.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm Coley Harris. You know your name? I'm looking at you.
No, Saad was jumping in there. I'm Amar Melton.
And thank you for listening to Mission Dad.